Hello, good afternoon. My name is Antonella Xisa, and today I'll be hosting the talent talks for the Valletta Film Festival, today, Wednesday, 19th of June. We are here at the Cinema Bar, and here with me today, I'm going to start first with meeting the jury of the Small Nations competition of the Valletta Film Festival, and I have 3 members here. A 4th member will be joining us a bit later on, and we'll talk with him a bit later on. But let's start with let's start with you. Marion During. Is that how you say your name?
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
So, in a few words, you are the director of the European Film Academy and also many other things. Tell us a bit about yourself, Marion.
Well, yes, as you said, I'm the director of the European Film Academy, and one of our main events is the annual presentation of the European Film Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought me already here to Malta 7 years ago. In 2012, in December, we presented the ceremony here.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, coming back is really like rediscovering this beautiful place. If you see somebody with a smile on the face walking around, it's me.
Fantastic, we like to hear that.
And at the same time, I have to say, I'm really surprised how vibrant Valletta has become over these years.
It has changed so much.
It was a really quiet place, but now it's full of people and nice bars and restaurants, so it
did.
great.
It changed a lot. Valletta 2018, Capital of Culture, helped for that as well, but also other things, of course.
Yes.
So, when did you arrive then here in Malta?
Now, 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
2 days ago, yes.
And you started your jury duties already in these 2 days?
Yes, of course, and even a little bit before, because we had to watch some of the films beforehand, because the festival started already last week. Yes, so we are full into the festival and full into the jury work already.
So explain to us the whole process. So when you become part of a jury, and then you are expected to watch some films, at least in this case of the Valletta Film Festival. You are expected to watch some of the films and then also obviously come here and watch them on big screen and explain to us the process.
You are supposed to watch all the films in competition, otherwise you would be a very bad jury member. And then, of course, you have to discuss the films with the other members, so the fellows that you meet, and which is, for me, I've been on many juries, and is always a great pleasure, because you grow together like a little family, you spend the time together shoulder by shoulder in the cinema, and you talk about the movies, and in the end you have the heavy duty of deciding which films should get the awards.
Are you staying here till the end of the festival, Marion?
Yes, I will leave on Sunday, so I will be here until the end.
Fantastic, okay. Now, tell us a bit more about your career. So when did you start? When did your love, when did your love of film start? And tell us how you started.
I was a journalist before, and I was... when Berlin, where I'm from, Berlin, was European Capital of Culture in 1988, the first ceremony of the European Film Awards was presented. And I was a spokesperson of this cultural capital year. And on the eve of the first ceremony, there was a group of great people gathering in a hotel room. Bernardo Bertolucci was there, and Wim Wenders, Ben Kingsley, Isabelle Huppert, and many others. So it was really a fantastic group of people in this room. And I was there, and I thought, how did I get into this room with these great people?
Very lucky.
Yes, very lucky, yeah, because it changed my life. And they decided to found a European Film Academy, because at that time European cinema was really not in a good condition. It had vanished from the screens, and American cinema was really taking over everything. So they said they have to do something for their films, and they decided to found this academy. And 30 years later, the academy is still there, I'm still there, and some of these old guys that were there and so enthusiastic about founding this academy are also still there. Wim Wenders is our president. Agnieszka Holland, the Polish filmmaker,
which was here, I think, for one of the VFFs, I think. She was here.
Yes, a very brave woman, very politically very brave in these times, and which is desperately needed, and a strong voice, So they are also still around, and a lot of young people have joined too, so there are 3,600 members from the European film community are in our academy.
And how did your role evolve? So you first got involved as part of the Capital of Culture, and then you continued as part of the academy. What roles did you serve on the academy?
Well, first I was also the press officer of the academy, and then I started to take care of all the activities, and then in 1996 I became the director of the academy, and yeah, this is what I'm doing for a long time, as you can see. But it's a great job because it's a great privilege to be with Europe and to work with all these fantastic film people from all over the continent, and to have also witnessed from so close all the changes in Europe. When we started, the wall in Berlin was still there. Europe was divided. Germany was divided. And then the wall came down, and the communist system disappeared, and borders disappeared, and people could start traveling freely inside Europe. So this was a great experience, and also because you knew people everywhere. But I have to say, now these recent years, it's changing to the bad. Because, as you know, we have in more and more countries, we have these right-wing nationalist governments, and who are also cutting the freedom of speech and the artistic freedom in their countries. So, and borders are coming up again. There is a lot that we have to take care of, and our academy is, how can I say, is also a gathering place for filmmakers that are deprived of their freedom, and we try to support them and to raise our voice whenever freedom is cut.
So maybe we can take this up also with the other members, but where do you think European cinema is at the moment? Is it in a healthy state? What do you think?
I think it has always been healthy when you look at the stories. I remember that Ben Kingsley at the time when we started with the academy, he always said, the Americans have stories to sell, and we, the Europeans, have stories to tell. This is still true, but of course on the market, European cinema is not so strong. To be honest, it's even quite weak. When you look at the market share, then you can say that in most countries, European movies, not including the national movies, take like 10%, which is really weak, and it should be much more, especially at times where films also can serve as ambassadors, where they can tell you about other people and mentalities, and also with all the refugees coming into Europe, for example. When you see a film about refugees, you get very close to them and you understand why they had to run away, and then you feel much more open when they come into your country. So we need to see more European films than we actually do. But
sure.
This is also a job that we all together have to achieve, and therefore a festival like the Valletta Film Festival is doing a very, very important job.
Indeed, yeah. I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at the Maltese film industry. If you, from the outside, what impressions you have of what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, we know this is a place also where a lot of big productions are being shot. I think what is important is that there is a stronger focus also on the creative talent that is here in Malta, but I think they need to be better supported. To my understanding, there is no real film school here, which is important.
No, not really.
No,
we don't have
really
a
important. It's really important. So it's not only provide services, but it's also very important to support the young generation of filmmakers, and there are great talents here. You just need to take them also by the hand and support them.
For sure. Okay, thank you, Marion. We'll come back to you as well. So, another member of the jury, we can go to Jason Florio, perhaps. Hi, Jason, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you for having us.
Good to have you here, all of you here. So you are a photojournalist and documentary filmmaker, and you divide your time sort of, let's say, between Malta and Gambia, but also obviously many other countries. I've seen on your website you've traveled to many places with your photojournalism and documentaries. So tell us a bit about what you do. Who are you?
Okay, so my name's Jason Flory. I'm as a photojournalist, as you say. My background is in photography and not film, so I'm probably one of the neophytes here as far as film goes. But I work mainly for magazines and newspapers and NGOs. My work is often based around human rights. And I've been working a lot on the migration crisis over the last few years, and that's actually what brought me to Malta. I was living in Gambia, and I had the opportunity to come and document the work of one of the rescue boats that was based from Malta. It was supposed to be a 3-week mission, and it turned into 18 months, and Helen, my wife, and I said, okay, let's see if we can actually relocate here, and we've been here for 4 years in Malta. So.
Great. And what were your impressions of Malta when you first moved here? And maybe how has that changed? Because as we were saying, Malta has changed very quickly as well in the last 4 years.
Absolutely. I didn't really know anything about Malta, to be honest with you. I thought it was just a place that old English people came to with straw hats and retired. But I really fell in love with it very quickly, and I'd always had dreams of living on a small island. When I was a kid, I just loved this idea of sort of kind of a romantic notion, so it's strange that we're here. But the changes are absolutely dramatic. I mean, how many cranes do we see around us, how much drilling, how much... there's progress, but there's a lot of devastation as well, and it's a shame to see. But it's also great to see Valletta, which used to be, by 5 o'clock it was kind of dead, and now it's vibrant.
That is a positive development, actually.
Yeah, very positive.
Because we all love Valletta. There's a lot of things happening. All the theatres are here, even some cinemas are here, some art galleries are popping up as well. So it has really developed in that sense, culturally.
Yeah, and sort of we're slowly getting ourselves into the art community. Before we were very sort of NGO based, and it's really fantastic to start sort of finding out about the people who are working here, the artists. I'm starting to meet a lot of other photographers, and having great conversations. So it's I'm really loving living here.
And how do you divide your time? Sort of you are based here, but do you always travel for your projects, or are you looking for projects here as well, like to stay here and work here?
Yeah, at the moment, Malta has become like a very nice office by the sea. Most of our work over the last year has been back in Africa. We've been in Gambia for 4 months just before we came here. So we're working on a very long-term project about victims of the former regime in Gambia. Next week I'm off to Uganda. So at the moment, Malta's kind of just a very nice place to come back to. But I hope to do more projects here once I sort of settle down a little bit.
Fantastic. And what is it that attracts you in a subject that you decide to do a story about it, or to do a documentary perhaps about it? What attracts you to the subjects?
I think for me it's very important to give a voice to the voiceless, and maybe that sounds a bit of a cliche, but the work that I've done has often been to tell the stories of basically sort of untold stories in a lot of respects, are underreported stories. At the moment I'm working on this long project with the victims, as I was saying, and there were people that have only within the last couple of years been able to speak out about the atrocities. And I've been working on projects about transgender communities in Latin America, LGBT refugees in South Africa. So I'm always looking for people a little bit kind of on the margins of society, really.
And once you decide on a subject, let's take one project, how do you proceed then? Do you talk to the people? What techniques do you use for your photojournalism and documentary filmmaking? How do you approach it?
Each project's quite different depending on kind of the research, and it depends on. I've been quite fortunate. A lot of the documentary films I've been able to make, or short documentaries, have been assigned by clients. So I haven't purposely gone out to hunt them down, but they're subjects which I'm really passionate about. So one of the last films I made for Amnesty International was about human rights defenders in the Gambia. So it was something that I'd already been working on with still photographs and portraiture, and they approached me and said, would you like to make a documentary film? And I was like, this is perfect. It's already a subject really close, but it was trying to find the new language of how to tell those stories, and that's something I'm learning. It's transitioning from a photojournalist into a filmmaker. you know, the stories are there, but it's how to put that into film rather than just into single shots as such.
And how do you relate to your subjects once you're there photographing them? What are the contacts you use?
I think I try to be as immersive as possible, but also you've got to be somewhat subjective as well. So Gambia is a little tricky because it's been our home on and off for 20 years. So we're extremely close to the subject, which has been really positive. And I think, like, when I'm working with the transgender community in Guyana was really fascinating because I was quite intimidated by these ladies, but I think once they knew what we were there for, and I think we sort of allow people to tell their own stories is what I try to do. I don't want to sort of enforce my opinion on what they should be presenting themselves as. I sort of allow people to speak for themselves.
Is there a project that you liked or marked you more than the others, perhaps, in your career? It's a difficult question.
There's been a few, yeah. I mean, I think this working with the migration crisis was extremely personal, because having lived in Gambia, I was starting to meet Gambians on the rescue boat, and within the first 3-week mission I was on, I met a young boy that I knew his father, and I'd even photographed his father back in Gambia. So
wow.
at that point,
that makes it very personal then.
Yeah, and this happened on a number of occasions, and even on the very last mission I worked on in November 2016, one of the last groups of people that was involved in the rescue, his father is someone I used to see a few times a week. He was involved with an organisation we worked with there, and so often if I was on the boat and I'd found someone that we had a family connection to, I'd call Helen, who was here in Malta, and then she would make the phone call back to Gambia to the families and alert the families that we'd found their son. So
that's amazing.
That to me has been one of the most personal projects I've ever worked on. So.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about your experience here in Malta. When did you arrive?
I first came in May 2015.
Okay, and how about being part of the jury of the Valletta Film Festival? Did that come as a surprise, or
a complete surprise?
Okay.
Because I'm fairly new to the film world. I come from a very visual world and a storytelling world, so I was really honoured when I was asked to be part of the jury. It's a little intimidating because I've got these people who've got an amazing history and track record within film, but it's been. I've really enjoyed sort of just immersing myself into so many films this last week. It's been a phenomenal experience.
Okay. So you've watched a few films already, and you are part of the jury that will give the award of the best documentary, but also the best fiction feature, right?
Exactly,
so
yeah.
all of you will be assigning the two. The two.
It's going to be a tough call.
Yes. I think we have very good films. The Valletta Film Festival always presents very, very good films. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Jason, for now. We'll get back to you as well. And now we go over to IB and Endo or Endau?
Endau.
Endau. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Good. When did you arrive in Malta?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you have time to see some of Valletta, or?
Yeah, it's really nice. I've strolled a bit in the city, and this is like a magical mix of, I don't know, Greece, Portugal, Italy, Mediterranean.
Yeah. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you trained in film and didactism. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background and what you do.
So I've studied a long time, cinema for 5 years, then art history for 1 year, and then education for 2 years, sort of in that order. And I then started working in a distribution company. Our speciality, sort of, is that we only distribute Pan-African movie. We actually have 4 of them here, not in competition, but and so we're based in Paris, and that's sort of it.
Okay. And when did your love for movies start? When you got the job first, or did that come before and you sought the job in the distribution company then?
No, I'm in love in cinema since I was 6.
Mhm.
Since the first time I went to the cinema, it was in Gambia actually, because I was born and raised there.
Mhm.
And
Is that a coincidence?
Well, I was wondering about your last name, but I was going to ask you later.
Okay, we have a lot of different connections then here. Also a Gambian connection.
And so I saw my first movie, which was actually a French movie, Les 400 coups de Truffaut, at l'Alliance Française. And that was like, wow, I love everything about it. And so I studied cinema, and because I lived in Africa for 14 years, I was at college, I started to work on African movies. And so when I saw the job offer, I was just, this is for me.
Fantastic.
And this is just the distribution company was.
What is it called then?
It's called Sudu Connexion.
Sudu Connexion, and it's based in Paris.
Yeah, in Pantin exactly. And Sudu means home in Peul, which is a language that you can find in West Africa. And so the idea was that there are a lot of production made in Africa, all of it, and we don't see a lot of movie here in Europe, because even if there are a lot of producers, there are not a lot of distributors. So we needed to fix that as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, and what do you do in practice as a company that distributes Pan-African films?
Well, we receive a lot of movie, short, long, documentary, fiction, and we first of all send them into festival, because they're a young director, and we feel that having a career in a festival will really make them being able to connect with their audience, travel, just because the most important for us is that the film is seen, and that, just like you told, the importance of having different vision about Europe, this is actually the same, having different vision, because Africa is not just, Africa is in a country, and there's a lot of country, a lot of language, a lot of different culture, and we also want to change the image that people could have in Europe, and African also does want to change that image. So that's sort of a political job that we're doing.
And that you distribute mostly to Europe or to the rest of the world as well?
We distribute in Europe, in USA, in North America, and in Africa, of course.
Everything.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And is there anything that you look for in a film when you decide to take it up and distribute it? What do you look for it? Because that's a question that a lot of filmmakers, obviously, I'm sure they ask a lot of you, and they try to maybe find a pattern in the films that you distribute. So tell us a bit about that.
Ideally, that it speaks to us, that it's telling us something, and that it's beautiful, sort of like the quality. And sometimes we have just two of them, because we're not gonna lie, there are some technical difficulties with making movie in Africa, and there are lack of formation. So sometimes the movie is like really well written, but you will have a problem with the quality of the sound or whatever. And so maybe we can work that with them to achieve a better version, which is something that we could do. And then after we acquire to the catalog, we send it to festival. If it's new, if it's too old, we directly, that's my job, pass to the second kind of places. We don't do in cinema, but we do all the other places, which could be Mediathèque, TV, of course, all the social place in France. We have Les Maisons des Jeunes, social center, all that kind of way that in Ile-de-France particularly are always have like movie theater, so we can project there.
And so I asked Marion, what is the state of European cinema? What is the state of African cinema at the moment, you think?
It depends. Well, in the English cinema is better, because
The English speaking.
Yeah.
So there
like
are films that are made.
Nigeria, of course, because they have Nollywood and they are really good at what they're doing, producing kind of way. South Africa, of course, which when we come to Western Africa, mostly French-speaking film, it's getting something fresh. Actually, really on the net, on the internet. Like you have in Senegal, Marodi TV, which a guy just pop on the internet and everybody is really fond of him, and it's actually more TV show than cinema. But I think a new generation is getting up and doing something really interesting.
And how did you, let's talk about your experience as part of the jury.
Yeah.
So how has it been till now, and when did you get to know about this, and were you happy when you got the news?
Yeah, really. Well, because we have then the 4 film and the selection, they ask us.
So you can tell us a bit about them then, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, let's start with how do you feel being part of a jury? Is it your first time?
It's my first time as being a jury, but when I was younger, I organized the jury. So that's the first time that I'm de l'autre
On the
côté
other
de la
side.
barrière.
Oui.
Yeah, that's it. And so it's been really cool to have the opportunity just to say, oh, I have to watch film tonight. So that was like really cool. Watched 8 films in a week. So 3 more to go.
Fantastic.
And it was really, really interesting of seeing this. I really discovered some country in Europe that have not know about a reality, social, their life, political, and that was like really interesting. And I'm looking forward to the 3 left.
And tell us a bit about the awards that the 3 of you, with the 4th member who will meet soon, will be assigning. What awards will you be assigning?
Well, the documentary one and the fiction one. And
how are they divided?
Yeah, so there's 6 fiction movie and 6 documentary movie. So only 1 of each could be the winner.
Fantastic. Okay. And tell us maybe quickly about the 4 movies that you have here.
Yeah. So
and which sections they form part of.
Actually, they're not in a section. It's like just the Pan-African sort of thing. But I don't want to say too much.
Okay.
I just want you to go and to see them. And I'll be there when they'll be projected, so we can speak at that moment.
Fantastic. Good. Maybe people can, pose some questions to you once there.
Sure.
Okay. So how about, again, anything you would like to add? Your experience here and being part of the jury. Marion?
Add something. Well, no, I mean, it's, as I said, it's always a pleasure to be in a jury and to see films together and to decide together. And, as you also said, to discover so many different stories and also how different situations in different countries. It's like traveling a little bit around the world. So within a week, you travel around the world. And I think that sometimes with a movie you get closer to people than when you travel, because you cannot knock at everybody's door and say, how are you, and what are you suffering from, and what are your hopes, and it's just crossing a border of intimacy, which you don't do. But in films are very intimate, they're really getting very close, they're going even into the people. So it's a lot to learn. You can learn a lot from movies about human nature and human behavior. And you always leave such a festival very enriched.
That's true. And what do you look for in films? I don't know, when you watch a film, and what is the thing that strikes you most, or something that you look for? Emotions, stories, characters discovering new worlds. Is there something you look for that more than others?
Yeah, of course, stories that are appealing, that really catch me. I'm also looking very much for honesty. But then it's also the visual pleasure. I mean, the images and the choreography of images, sound, music, acting, story, etc. We call film, not by coincidence, the 7th art. And so it involves all arts, and if it's done well, then you really know why it's called the 7th art. So it's a great experience that we hope that many people still go to the cinema. It's not the same when you watch something on the computer. It's a completely different experience. And we hope that the theaters will keep alive and that people will still go, especially the young generation we know is more on the computer, but they miss a lot when they don't watch film in the company of others and when they really not enter into the screen and are very close to everything.
and you've been on many juries, you said. So give us a little bit of your CV. What juries have you been on?
Oh God!
Some of them, a few.
I've been in Italy. I've been in Serbia. I've been in Kosovo. I have been in France. I've been
A bit
in
everywhere.
Spain. So yeah.
And you always
All
enjoy
right.
the experience, though.
Always.
Fantastic, Jason. So, what do you look for in film? You all have different tastes, I'm sure. So there might be maybe discussions on who the winners will be. I'm sure it happens every year in every jury, I think. But what do you specifically look for in a film?
I think it's hard to nail it to one thing. I'm looking to be educated, I think, especially in the documentary world. I want to be informed about a subject that I didn't have a knowledge about or was underinformed. But I'm often, for me, I like an emotional reaction. I want to feel something when I'm watching the film. And one of the documentaries I was watching today was very long and slow, but it just took me on this beautiful journey. And I think that's what I'm looking for, is this sort of, I like being sort of lost and immersed when I'm watching something, and just not thinking about looking at my phone or any of these distractions, but completely 100% into the film and the subjects, and just sort of being a little bit lost in a certain way, but coming out with a fresh perspective as well on a place.
Fantastic. Great. I think we can close it here, and then we can go on to the next guest. So thank you all. Thank you, IB. Thank you, Marian. Thank you, Jason. And thank you also for having jury duties and for being here in Malta. Thank you.
Great, thanks for having us.
So, do we have Jayro Bustamante here?
Quiero que reflexione en lo primero que le venga a la mente las palabras que le voy a decir. Amor.
Familia.
Dios.
Padre.
Anormal.
Yo.
Esta es una prueba, mi cielo. Pero usted es fuerte.
Pablo, ¿estás haciendo algo para curarse? Yo sé que en el fondo usted no es así.
Mejor pregúntele si no se da cuenta en qué situación está poniendo la familia.
Te pedimos, Señor, para que hoy, Señor, renuncie, Padre.
¿Tú sabes quién es? Es más joven.
Dios lo hizo a su semejanza. Perfecto.
Dios ama a los pecadores. Lo que no ama es el pecado.
¿Vos crees que me vaya a dar lo mismo que él? Puede ser.
Por orden de jueces, me prohibieron ver a mis hijos.
Hello, welcome back to the Talent Talks of the Valletta Film Festival. We are here at the Cinema Bar, and before the break we spoke to 3 members of the jury of the Small Nations competition of the VFF, and you are another member of our jury, Jayro Bustamante.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Happy to be in Malta.
Good.
It's my first time here. I'm very impressed by the city.
When did you arrive?
Sorry?
When did you arrive in Valletta?
2 days ago, but it's like 2 years ago.
Okay, so you've seen a lot.
I'm saw a lot of street from Valletta, but I'm very interested that how Malta made this kind of quantic changement in so short time.
Yeah,
no?
we mentioned that as well with the
But
other
not
members.
only because the life, but political changements and laws, and new laws, and open to human rights and open to freedom to gay community. And I don't know if I'm true, but I think there is a increasement for women rights too, because at the beginning we had the idea that Malta was a little bit machist. So I'm trying to understand this, how a society can jump so big.
Yes,
so
there is
so
a movement
so
towards
quickly.
the legalization of abortion as well, in those kind of terms, yeah.
Exactly, and even because I cannot compare with my country, my native country.
So you are from Guatemala?
Guatemala, and in Guatemala now government want to punish natural abortion. So we are going back, and so I'm always very happy when I saw communities going far.
Yes, so here in Malta, the LGBTIQ communities, yes, have definitely had a few leaps forward, even in the legal framework as well.
Exactly.
So tell us a bit, let's start with about yourself. So who are you, and where did you start in film? Tell us a bit about who you are.
I'm the best.
You're the best.
No, I had the chance to grow up in Guatemala in a Mayan community, because Guatemala is a kind of two worlds in the same country. There is the Mayan people living in a way, and the mixed people living in the other way. And Mayan people are the majority, but they have all the problems. And in the mixed people, there is a very, very small 8% maybe, or 6%, the more white people having all the power of the country. And there is a kind of families in a new feudalism system. And so it's very hard to think in a progressive way in a society like that. And there is a lot of discrimination. So I was very happy to have this experience to live in the Mayan part, to know very well this problematic. And after that I moved to Paris because I wanted to make films, and we didn't have a cinema school in Guatemala, we didn't have industry in Guatemala. So I started dreaming about French movies when I was a kid, and I moved to Paris to make my studies, and I traveled a little bit in Europe. I made my screenplay studies in Rome, and after that I decided to still living in Europe, and I started sharing my life between Guatemala and Paris, and I'm trying to do that. So it's not very easy because it's a little bit far. But
yes, I guess it's not easy.
But I'm very happy with these two, so big difference, and at the end there is not a lot of difference because it's human and with the same problematics.
Yes, and you are here at the Valletta Film Festival because you are part of the jury, but also your most recent film, Tremors, is being shown. But let's go back a few years, because your first feature film, Ishkanul? Ishkanul. So Ishkanul was screened at the Valletta Film Festival at its first edition, and it also won a lot of different awards all over the world as well. So how was that experience, and with Ishkanul having such a big reception and a warm reception?
You know, when I started writing Ishkanul, I started based in a trilogia, what you say that in English?
Trilogy.
Idea, and I wanted to talk about the three more important insult in Guatemala, because when I was a baby, it was this insult was very important, and now I think they are more important. So I think even the people are protecting this insult, because that is very useful for a society with a lot of difference, have this kind of concepts accepted. And the first one is Indio, who is the worst insult in Guatemala. And when you know that more than 70% of the people are Indians, it's a very extreme thing. And the second one is gay, that in Guatemala, to say gay, we say hole, hueco, hole, like a hole.
Like a hole.
And the third one is communist. Communist, but it's nothing to do with the political concept. It's just Guatemala is a dictature. It was a dictature for so many years, and now a military dictator, and now when you are taking care for the rights of the other people, they call you communist, because charity is okay, but taking care of rights, no, because you can become Cuba or Venezuela, even worse.
Okay.
And so I wanted to talk about that, and I start with Ishkanu because it was.
Tell us what is it about for those who haven't seen it.
Ishkanul is a film talking about the situation of Mayan women in Guatemala, and it's very difficult to be an Indian in Guatemala. And it's very difficult to be a woman in Guatemala. And when you are a woman, Indian, poor, single, and underage, you have all the etiquettes all the labels to be discriminated. So I wanted to start with this case, talking about a very big phenomenon that happened in Guatemala in the 80s, that we were the first country exporting babies. And adoption in Guatemala at that time couldn't be, you could have adopted that baby in a week. And it was legally. And one of the most important people involved in these cases, it was a candidate for the president in 1 week ago. So it's a country, it's a very corrupted country. And
you also take up quite a controversial subject in the film that's screening here, which is Tremors, which is called Tremors. Tell us a bit about the Tremors story then.
Yeah, that is the second insult, because to me, homophobia.
So that is the gay.
Exactly, the
gay. Second insult, yeah.
The second insult.
And then we will talk about the third one then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's start with the second.
So the second is, I wanted to talk about male homosexuality because it's taken different in Guatemala. So in Guatemala, the homophobia is not just because you hate homosexual, it's because you hate women. At the end, they take the fact that if you are a man, if you want to be homosexual, it's like you are like a woman, so less. And because it's a phallocratical society. And I was very interested about that, because when some men in Guatemala make his coming out, even if in a family or in the society or I don't know, the first advice that he received is take a woman, get married, and make like you are not. And nobody is taking care about women. You know, it's just to take a woman and make it.
And have kids.
And have kids, exactly. And so there is a movement in Guatemala, a very important movement with people who can't know, gays who can't hide themselves because they are visible. Trans people, and these people are really fighting against the system. But all the other men who can hide a little bit, they do it. So it's very strange, and it's a society who are very religious. We are 98% of people are religious.
Catholic religion.
No, Now the evangelistic movement is more
It's more
present.
It's like in the film. Then they are
it's
evangelical.
Like in the film, exactly, evangelical. And but we were talking with the jury yesterday, and I was explaining that, for example, in Guatemala, if you are a thief, you are demoniac. You are not a thief. You are satanic, and there is not place to.
So you can't be an atheist. You have to
no,
believe something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so let's tell the story of Tremors in brief. So it follows. The first scene is basically this tragic scene of a man coming back to his family, and they basically discovered that he's a homosexual man and that he's having a relationship with another man, and basically the world around him falls apart, basically. And then we see sort of the development of the film, how the people around him start having, like, they crumble down with him. We see his guilt feeling, but also he wants to be himself. So we see that struggle, but at the end he sort of gives in to the evangelical church offering conversion therapy, and a part of the film focuses on that conversion therapy, which is quite shocking as well to see. Is that something that still happens in Guatemala, or was it more, obviously, you maybe made it a bit bigger for the film?
No, I really made it smaller for the film.
Wow.
Because
okay.
it's so ridiculous that sometimes you can't, in movies, at the end, reality can be fiction. So you have to be more delicate with all these things, because I think people can be very, in real life, can be very ridiculous. And so it was the worst part, the more difficult part for me, try to look for the scenes that seems real in the film. And normally these therapy are composed in 3 parts. The first part is broke you on your psyche. The second part is broke in your social life, and the third one is broke you physically. And normally like that, you have to understand that you have to be a straight man, or live like a straight man. Because they are not saying anymore that you can change. They are just saying that you can choose the way that you will live. So it's more dark and more interesting at the same time, and that is very expensive. And even if you are in a church, a popular church in a neighborhood, a poor neighborhood, so it is less expensive, but it's still expensive for people living there.
Are you saying it's a way for the church to make money as well?
Yeah, it's a very nice way for the church to make money. But they make money in everything. But it's normal, because when you live in a country when the state don't take care about the people, so this kind of organization came to give some services. For example, there is not I don't know what to say, guarderia. You know, the places to the kids.
Where you leave the kids. Yeah,
where you leave kids and
the nursery. That's right.
Thank you. We don't have nurseries, public nurseries, and private nurseries are very expensive. So evangelistic church are giving this service, and it's free. If you pay your 10% each month to the church, if you pay some promise faith to God, if you participate in all the economy of the church.
And how did you develop the character of Pablo, which is the main character, and we go through the journey with him from the beginning. We see his breakdown in the beginning, and then we see him go through the whole film. You know, what was the inspiration for that?
I met a Pablo, the first Pablo that told me his story, and I wanted to understand more than because when I met him, I understood that I was talking with a homosexual man who was at the same time homophobic. And at the same time, he wanted to make me understand that he was happy in this bubble, making like if he was
like a facade for society, being
Exactly.
married and having kids, and
And I started looking for more and more and more, and at the end I had a group of 22 men, and they have all the same points, and into the interviews and dinners and all this kind that I've organized, I discovered that they made each kind of a therapy to. And in the most of the cases, they wanted to be cured. They really wanted.
like the character as well.
Like
At
the
the end, he's
character.
convinced that he needs conversion.
I don't know if he's convinced, but I will not spoil the
Yeah.
film.
Okay. It's very open. Yeah.
And so it was my first point, and after that, the complicated things was, how do you do to make a character, anti-hero, loved by the audience? And it's very hard, because the only thing that you have to make a link with the audience in a character like him is if you can make that people, even if they are not gay, feel the suffering of this man. And
Has it
the
been
suffering
shown?
of all the others, because I think in the film it's really not a film, a boring film, but I
Not
think
at all.
in
I loved it.
the film all the characters are suffering.
Yeah,
Even
he
the
mentioned,
character-
Francisco mentions this as well. I think
Exactly.
there's a few lines by the other character, and he does say that I think that life is about suffering. So I think that plays an important part. And also the character of Francisco is like, in a way, it's he gives the hope. In a way, he's like the most transparent, the most genuine character.
Yeah, more light to more with a kind of a shine, because he's himself.
Has the film been shown in Guatemala already?
Not yet. We are preparing the release in August, I hope. But you know, when I released Ishkanul in Guatemala, that Ishkanul is a film talking about human Mayas, and that's all. I was marked like a communist, so I had to wait a little bit to have more international press, to have more festivals in the world, and to can release the film with all the support. And so we are doing the same thing with Temblores. Temblores was released in Berlin this year in February, and until now we made 30 countries in festivals. We have 4 countries with releases, commercial releases. So I think for August we will be prepared to show the film.
Fantastic.
Because Church it started to attack the film now in Guatemala.
And now tell us a bit about the sort of technical part of making the film. So when did you start? Because you also wrote the film. When did you first decide that you wanted to tell the story as a filmmaker?
I was for Temblores. I was finishing the film, the Escanul film, the shooting, when I met this Pablo, and I started writing about him. And the story arrived in a moment that I was just quit Escanul, and Escanul was still a little bit the same thing. I met a woman called Maria, and when he told me the story, he was very, very clear, and she was very clear. And she told me, I have a story. Your mother asked me to tell you the story, but I have 3 conditions. I just want to tell you once with you. I don't want to be named in the film, and I don't want to be watched the film. So I took the story like that. And after that, I start make a fiction with this story. And after that, I met this Pablo, and I felt a little bit the same thing. So, but with this Pablo, I could talk a little bit more. But I felt a little bit the same thing, that there is another Maria coming to me, and I was very happy.
And then what was the process? So you started writing, and you started looking for funding, perhaps for the film. And did you use the same team as well on the the same technical team as Ishkanu, or was it a different process?
No, it was different because in Ishkanu, as I said, in Guatemala there is not industry. I think we made 3 films per year or 2. And 4 maybe, I don't know. But there is not a lot.
Okay.
And there is just 3 directors making international festivals. So I decided to make this film, and I took a credit in a bank to finance the film.
What did you do?
I have a loan in the bank.
Okay, so you self-funded it partially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking all the risks, and I spent all the money in the shooting. For the post-production, I made a co-production with friends. But it was very hard because even if it was a very small budget to make the film, it wasn't so small for Guatemala, and we were living in a volcano, in activity volcano, without electricity, without water, without transportation, easy transportation. And so after for Temblores, we get the financial part in 2 months. Like
That's great.
Because Ishkanu was very successful, and I was very happy. And so for Ishkanu, I formed the cast because there is not cinema actors either in Guatemala, so I worked with them to form them for 1 year.
So you had proper training with them. Okay,
and for
that's very
Temblores,
interesting.
I made the same thing.
Wow. Okay.
And we worked a little bit longer in Temblores because we were core of actors. So.
And how did you choose them then? Were they people who you worked with before, or did you do an audition process?
There is one of the actors coming from Ishkanu in this film, Maria Telón, who is a wonderful actress, Mayan actress.
Who plays Rosa?
Who plays Rosa, exactly.
The caretaker of takes care of the children.
Yeah. And Juan Pablo Lislager, who is the main character of the film, he's, I think, the most famous actor in Guatemala. So they are the only 2 actors, real professional actors, and all the others I make castings. For men was easier because 80% of the men that I cast in Guatemala told me, I don't want to play a gay role, but please give me another one because I want to be famous. So I say 80% erased.
Okay, that's interesting.
And the other 20% was there, ready to make anything because they wanted to give life to a character. And I choose them, and we really build a family. We were working with them, but with this group of Pablos at the same time. So I get new news each day when we work, and say, there is another Pablo who told me that, and it was always suffering thing.
Okay.
Or because this group of Pablos is still under the pressure of the family. There is a lot of mothers doing very horrible things to try to change them.
Yeah, to convert them. Yeah.
To convert them. And there is people having 55. And the mothers still are pushing and saying you will go to hell, but we were using it all the time. There is a sentence in the film that the mother say, don't be humanist, because human being can be first than God. So I took this sentence, and we were working all the time with this echo. And I think it was very important because we were strong like a family, and that protect us in all this dark process.
So you did workshops with them, and the script was ready at that time, or did you develop it with the actors themselves?
It was ready, but I developed a little bit more with actors.
Okay, and let's talk a bit about your experience here as a member of the jury. How has it been till now? Have you ever been part of a jury?
I'm very happy because we just met, but we are kind of close. And I think because we are just talking a little bit about films, and I think it will be not very difficult to choose the film.
Okay, so
because I
that's
will
interesting.
impose my choice.
Because you're the best, right? Okay. And what is it? I asked them the question already. Is there anything that you look for in film? When you watch a film, what is it that strikes you? Maybe as a jury member, what will you award,
Even if there is very subjective, because it's always like that, I think there is the same line that you are looking for a good story and a good way to tell this story, because you can have a very nice story, but if the story don't touch you, and it's a little bit sad. And after that, when you have these 2 points, if you can have it with a very nice artistic way to picture that and to listen that, and if you can make a very cinematographic trip and having the other 2 points, I think it's a masterpiece. So I'm always looking for that, but I think the most important was the first 2.
Okay, and as a filmmaker, so you started from doing commercials in Guatemala, and then you went over to making a feature film, and then making more feature films that are quite socially committed. You tackle difficult subjects. How did you make that leap then from commercials to making these kind of films?
To me, it wasn't different worlds, because I'm just start working in advertising because it was the only door to make audiovisuals in Guatemala. So when you don't have schools, when you don't have people talking about movies, because movies are only blockbuster, so advertising people teach me a lot of techniques, a lot of way to communicate with images. So I'm very happy to have this starting.
It was good training for you then.
And I was in a very, very smart and creative agency. At that time, agencies had producers and directors in-house. And I was 16 when I started working.
Wow.
So
that's very young.
it was very important to me, because I came from a little town, Mayan town, without money, and I arrived to this agency and I started working.
Fantastic.
I was a kind of kid. People call me, "Kid, take that. Kid, bring me that." And even now, when I have some dinners with these friends, they call me kid.
Still.
So it's nice.
Fantastic. Okay, and what advice would you have for young filmmakers then to take the leap and actually go out and make their films? What advice do you give them?
I think we have to be very patient. We have to still train.
Very important.
And there is a very important thing that I think directors forget sometimes. Maybe we can have more visibility than other people making films, because we are the directors, some actors. But never forget that a film is a group of people doing that, and a group of talent doing that. So I think it's very important understand how the other people are so important like you, and choose very well your collaborator.
Okay, fantastic. I think, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you. Thank you, Malta,
Fantastic.
to have us here.
Thank you, Jayro, for joining us, for being part of this jury, and also for bringing your film Tremors. It will show, let's remind them, it will show, it showed yesterday, it screened yesterday, and it will screen again on Sunday, which is the last day of the VFF, Sunday 23rd of June at 6:30 p.m. at the Spazio Creative. So be sure to go and watch it. It's a great film. And thank you for bringing the film to us and for being here in Valletta. We will see you for the next Talent Talks tomorrow again at 5:30. So keep watching films at the Valletta Film Festivals and follow the schedule on www.vallettafilmfestival.com. Thank you for following.
Hi, my name is Mikhail Basmajan and I'm a television, film and theatre actor. Now, I also played the part of a police officer, a Maltese police officer, in a short film called Sheep, where my job was to guard the sheep. Now, that was about 2 years ago, and it first premiered here at the Valletta Film Festival. Now, the Valletta Film Festival is 5 years old, and it is the cinema event that should not be missed. Spans over 10 days, over 100 films, open-air cinema, something you have to come to. Now, when you look at the program of the Valletta Film Festival, you can actually get confused. I mean, it is a great selection, but where do you start? That's why I'm here today. My job is to help you decide. Winners of various festivals, such as the Golden Bear Award at the Berlinale. Other films straight from Cannes. And we will be having the long-awaited full-feature documentary film Maradona. And this is based on 500 hours of yet unseen footage from Maradona's personal archives. Imagine that. A total of 12 feature and documentary, as well as 24 short films, will compete as part of the Cinema of Small Nations competition, eligible only to films from 34 small nations in Europe, Middle East and North Africa. All the feature films shown in the Cinema of Small Nations competition will be shown at the Valletta Campus Theatre. As part of the festival, we also have a section called Islanders, and we have films like Capri Revolution, Twin Flower, a Maltese production called Bahar Zmin of Time and Sea by Peter Sant, starring Ruth Borch and Narsi Kalamata. And as part of the Islanders section, we also have a film called Islander. So we are at the Phoenicia Hotel, which is just outside Valletta, and actually this is the place where a lot of actors, directors and producers participating in the festival will be staying. One such director is the famed Hungarian director Béla Tarr, who will be giving a masterclass here on his work as auteur. Another famous director who will be giving a masterclass in directing is Liliana Cavani. This masterclass will be at the Valletta Campus Theatre. And we're going to have some free screenings here for you with some classic films such as 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Easy Rider, Vagora, which was filmed in Malta, and also the animated classic Coralie. 14th to the 23rd of June, Valletta Film Festival. It's an event not to be missed. See you there.